This would be the 15,498th incarnation. I felt faint for a moment there. 15,498. That's over 30 characters right now, while 15,498 feels considerably smaller. Yay for Arabic numerals. I feel like offering a prayer of thanks to whoever it was who came up with the idea. This derailment only serves to show how disturbed I was. We have repeated the same 2 weeks over 10,000 times. If an ordinary person were to be aware of this loop and retain the memories from each incarnation, he would experience a mental breakdown. I believe that Suzumiya's memories have been completely wiped clean. Cleaner than ours, Koizumi explained. This is when you turn to the most knowledgeable person around. I checked with Nagato. Are you serious about this? Yes. Nagato nodded. So wait, we've already done the stuff scheduled for tomorrow in the past? Along with the bond dance and the goldfish scooping? That's not necessarily the case. Nagato's voice wasn't showing much emotion either. Haruhi Suzumiya has not followed the same course of action in each of the previous 15,497 incarnations. Nagato gave me an unconcerned look as she spoke in that unconcerned tone. Over the course of the previous 15,497 loops, there were 2 instances without a trip to the bond dance. There were 437 instances where the trip occurred without goldfish scooping. At the moment, every loop has included a visit to the public pool. There were 9,025 instances of working part-time, but there have been 6 different variations. Aside from distributing balloons, we have also been carrying objects, manning cash registers, passing out flyers, working a call center, and modeling for a photo shoot. Of those, there were 6,011 instances of balloon distribution, 360 instances of 2 or more jobs performed. The incarnations with multiple jobs can be divided into... Yeah, that's enough. I silenced the alien-made artificial human before putting my thinking cap on. We've been through the back half of August 15,498 times. Everything was reset on August 31st, and we started over from August 17th. I had no recollection of this happening, but Nagato did. Why? Because Nagato, or the data overmind to be precise, is an existence that transcends space-time. Koizumi's smug smirk seemed a bit forced. Or maybe it was just the light. Or whatever, it doesn't matter. Moving on, I understand that Nagato and her boss are capable of such a feat, but that wasn't my concern. This all meant that... So, Nagato, you've experienced this 2-week period 15,497 times? Yes. Nagato nodded like it wasn't a big deal. Yes. Don't you have anything else to say? Not that I can think of anything else to say, but still. Well, you see... Hold on. 15,498 times, multiplied by 2 weeks, that comes out to 216,972 days, around 594 years. She's gone through centuries, loop after loop, just standing there and watching us impassively. How could anyone not be sick and tired of that? I mean, after 15,498 visits to the public pool? Man... My mouth remained open as my voice trailed off. Nagato cocked her head like a small bird as she stared at me. I recalled that feeling I'd had when I saw Nagato sitting by the pool. Guess I might have been correct when I thought that she looked bored. I'd assumed that even Nagato would get sick of all that repetition. She never says anything, but she might have clicked her tongue or something while no one was looking. And when that was the sudden thought that hit me, I more or less understood the phenomenon we were dealing with. But I didn't know why this was happening. Why is Haruhi doing this? This is merely speculation. Koizumi gave a little disclaimer. Suzumiya doesn't want summer vacation to end on a subconscious level. That is why our summer vacation won't end. Because she's acting like a little brat who doesn't want to go back to school? Koizumi absently traced his finger around the rim of his can of coffee. I would presume she feels there is still something left to be done during summer vacation. She can't begin the new term until that's been done, or she'll have lingering regrets. And when she falls asleep on the night of August 31st with that gnawing regret, she wakes up to find that the clock has been turned back 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm just about ready to give up on her. I knew she was capable of doing just about anything, but this takes her lack of common sense to a whole new level. What will it take to satisfy her? I haven't the slightest. Do you know, Nagato? I do not. Didn't take her long to respond. You realize you're the only one we can depend on here. I attempted to voice that thought. Why didn't you tell us that we've been engaged in an endless 2-week-long waltz? After a few seconds of silence, Nagato's thin lips parted. My job is to observe. I see. I already knew that more or less. Nagato had yet to actively involve herself in any of our activities, but she got involved in the end almost every time. However, she's only initiated contact once when she invited me to her apartment. Barring that exception, Nagato's merely accompanied us in her extremely vital position. How could I forget? Yuki Nagato was a humanoid interface created by the Data Overmind, an organic android dispatched to observe Haruhi. There might be a safety mechanism on her ability to feel emotions, but none of that matters. What mattered was that I considered Yuki Nagato, the book-loving, reticent, petite, and ever-so-reliable classmate, one of us. If you looked at the SOS Brigade members, Nagato had the most knowledgeable as well as the ability to apply that knowledge. So I had a few more questions for her. When did we first realize this? I asked this question on a whim, but Nagato answered as though she'd been expecting it. The 8769th loop revelation has become more frequent as of late, since we are consistently finding ourselves disoriented by deja vu. Koizumi seemed to agree. However, during those past sequences, we were unable to correct the flow of time after realizing our situation. Yes, said Nagato, which explained why Asahina was crying right now, because she now knew the truth. And then, 2 weeks' worth of memories, experience, and growth would be reset, and she'd find herself crying after learning the truth again. And once again I find myself with the same reaction I've had more times than I care to remember since meeting Haruhi back in spring. The same reaction I've had every time Haruhi created some kind of godforsaken mess. The same reaction I have right now. What the hell? And I've had that reaction 8,769 times within the past 2 weeks. Seriously. Chalk up another ridiculous conversation. We went stargazing the next day. The location was the roof of Nagato's apartment. Koizumi brought a bulky telescope that he mounted on a tripod. It was around 8 p.m. The sky was dark and so was Asahina's mood. She just stood there in a dazed stupor. This wasn't the time to be looking at the stars. I wasn't in much better shape myself. Koizumi, who seemed to have recovered his composure, busied himself. He was setting up the telescope with a smile on his face. This was a hobby of mine when I was young. I was deeply moved when I saw the moons of Jupiter for the first time. Nagato was the same as always, just standing there on the roof. I looked up at the night sky, but there were only a handful of stars. The polluted air made them difficult to see. You could even say that there was no sky to see. Come winter, the atmosphere would be clear and Orion would be visible at the very least. The telescope was pointed at Earth's neighbor. Haruhi was peering through the finder. I wonder if any exist. Any what? Martians. I'd rather they didn't. I pictured a bunch of octopus-like monsters wriggling around as they plotted world domination, and it certainly didn't sound entertaining in the slightest. Why? They could be a friendly bunch. Look, there's nobody on the surface. I'm sure they're a really reserved race who lives in underground caverns. They're just trying to avoid scaring us Earthlings. The Martians on Haruhi's head sound like residents of Hollow Earth. Can't you make up your mind? Are we talking more Pellucidar or Mars attacks? You'll only make things more complicated if you'll combine them. Think simple. Simple. I'm sure they have a plan to pop out and welcome us when the first manned spacecraft lands on Mars. They'll be like, "Welcome to Mars, neighbors, denizens of our neighboring planet." I'm sure of it. That'd be a big scare. Practically an ambush. I have no idea who's going to be the first to set foot on Martian soil, but we should probably warn that person. Do I address the letter to NASA? Time passed as we took turns using the telescope to observe the patterns of Mars and lunar craters. I suddenly noticed that someone was missing and began glancing around before I found Asahina sitting against the rooftop railing and hugging her knees. She had her head bowed down and her eyes were shut. Doubt she got much sleep last night, so I'll let her rest for now. Haruhi had apparently grown tired of a night sky that showed no signs of dramatic change. Let's look for UFOs. They're probably targeting Earth. There must be alien scouts standing by in orbit. She cheerfully began turning the telescope this way and that, but soon lost interest again. She sat down next to Asahina and leaned against her slender shoulder before falling asleep. Koizumi turned to me and spoke in a soft voice. She must have worn herself out. I don't see how she'd be more tired than the rest of us. Haruhi was sound asleep. I was tempted to draw on her face. Still, she looked her best when she was asleep, yeah? If only she would keep her mouth shut. If she swapped personalities with Nagato, that would be perfect. Well, a subdued Haruhi is one thing, but I can't even begin to imagine a talkative Nagato whose moods swing all over the place. A night breeze blew by as I watched Haruhi and Asahina sleeping side by side. Haruhi wasn't surrendering anything to Asahina in terms of looks at the moment. Some might even rank her above, I guarantee it. What does she want to do? I sighed to myself. Have fun with her friends? Something like that? I would assume that is the case, and we would be the friends you mentioned. Koizumi looked off into the night sky. So then, which fun activity are we supposed to engage in? This won't end until we figure that out. We will be forced to repeat this 2-week period until we determine what Suzumiya desires, which she herself does not know, and grant her wish. I suppose we should be grateful that our memories are being reset, or else we would have suffered mental breakdowns long ago. 15,498 times. Seriously, isn't Nagato just trying to fool us? Quite frankly, I find this hard to believe. Still, I could certainly see Haruhi doing something like this since I've seen her power. Still, an unsolved mystery, do some blockheaded things without her knowing. Doesn't matter if she's doing something consciously or unconsciously. The end result can only mean trouble for everybody else. And since we continue to faithfully stick with Haruhi, you have to wonder if we're some kind of overly nice goodwill organization. The SOS Brigade has some really good-tempered members, though you know that the world's gone off its rocker when I have a say in its fate. Besides, people like to assume that the world should be a certain way to which we must absolutely adhere, but in reality that's just a bunch of bull that ends up tailored to different ideologies, and since they don't realize this, we find ourselves with people who blindly follow their own ideals on other people. You might want to consider how future generations will view your actions in 1,000 years or so. I was going off on a nice little tangent when Koizumi suddenly interrupted me. I don't know what Suzumiya is looking for, but why don't we try this? Embrace her from behind without warning and whisper, "I love you," into her ear. Who's supposed to do that? Would anyone be more suited for the role than you? I'm vetoing that idea. I pass. Shall I give it a try instead? I had no way of seeing the look on my face at that moment since I didn't have a mirror handy. However, Koizumi could. I merely jest. I wouldn't be able to fill the role. It would only serve to confuse Suzumiya. And with that he began to chuckle in a grating Tory. I fell silent again as I stared up at the radiant moon, the only visible light in the hazy summer sky. The silver disk, surrounded by engulfing darkness, almost seemed to beckon to me as it reflected brilliant sunlight. Beckon me where? Who knows? That was all I could think about as I watched Nagato stand perfectly still and look up into the sky. Summer wasn't quite over yet, but our summer vacation was about to end, and yet we couldn't be entirely sure if it would ever end. Give me a break, seriously. We might find ourselves going back to August 17th. How are we supposed to figure out what's still left to be done in Haruhi's mind? What's left? I haven't touched a stack of homework that I'm supposed to do over summer vacation, but that shouldn't have anything to do with Haruhi. Hell, she already finished her homework. Where are we headed next? Let's go to the batting center. Haruhi was carrying an aluminum bat, the same beat-up bat she'd swiped from the baseball team way back when. A really old-looking one that seemed more suited for beating people to death than hitting baseballs. Didn't realize she still had it. Our brigade chief tossed back her hair as she flashed a $1,000,000 smile at all of us and led us to the batting center along the railroad tracks. I'm guessing that the inspiration for this came from watching high school baseball. I'm also guessing that the brigade members are taking turns being melancholic. Right now we have Asahina, who's either blue or looking blue. Bad news for me, unfortunately. Guess she still wants to return to her original time. Nagato and Koizumi were more or less back to their usual selves. No Mask Girl and Smiley Face Boy, as they walk behind me. They're acting like this isn't any of their responsibility. Could you at least pretend to look serious? I exhaled and focused my eyes ahead on Haruhi's black hair as it bounced around. Ever since I met her, ever since the SOS Brigade was formed, someone had decided that it would be my job to babysit Haruhi, no matter who it was. So I have to control my urge to vent, but let me say this at least. Don't overestimate me. I'm just your typical average Joe. Hollow words at this point. Asahina was a confused mess. Koizumi only ever smiled, Nagato only ever observed. So I had to do something about Haruhi. But what was I supposed to do? Only Haruhi would know the answer, and she didn't even realize there was a problem. Mikuru, you don't need to swing the bat. Practice bunting. It's not like you're gonna hit the ball if you swing. You want the ball to roll up on the ground after it hits the bat. Don't pop it up. I guess that baseball tournament left a lasting impression on Haruhi. Don't tell me she plans on entering again next year. Haruhi was hogging the 80-mile-an-hour baseball cage as she hit one fastball after another. She seems to be enjoying herself so much that I found myself cheering up. This girl is really something. She must have a higher mitochondrial count than your average person. Wonder where all her energy comes from. If only she would use it for the greater good. After that, Haruhi moved through her schedule so fast that nobody had time to hit the pause button, as we were so constantly on the move every day. We even went to see a full-blown fireworks display. Aerial shells launched down by the shore. The three girls got back in their summer kimonos to be delighted, only Haruhi was delighted, by fireworks soaring into the sky before bursting into a fiery boom and to laugh at the failed attempts by making caricatures out of fireworks. Haruhi really enjoyed anything that was unnecessarily flashy. She had such an innocent smile when she was having a good time, and it made her look younger than her actual age, so I found myself averting my eyes. If I stare at her too long, I might get some weird ideas. Well, not that I know what those weird ideas might be. Still, I did understand the importance of dressing for the occasion. On a different day, we entered an open goby fishing contest on a river near the district border. We didn't catch a single goby. We kept reeling in these tiny fish I'd never seen before, so we weren't able to participate in the measuring. Haruhi seemed to be pretty interested in the casting motion itself, so we didn't have to deal with drastic penalties for losing or ego battles. I was very relieved and grateful that I didn't have to worry about anybody accidentally fishing up a coelacanth, leaving me to savor the lunch that had been made by Asahina, who had turned pale upon seeing the worms used for bait and ran to run off in the other direction. By this point, Haruhi and I were burned into a crisp, in sharp contrast with Koizumi and Asahina, who had used UV protection. Nagato would probably stand there for days without tanning, which was fine by me, and since brown Nagato would be a surreal sight. And yes, I realized this wasn't the time to be enjoying myself. The days flashed by as we raced along our set path. Haruhi was full of energy. I was greatly distressed. Asahina had turned a deeper shade of blue. Koizumi's forced smile showed that he had resigned himself to this fate. Nagato was the only one who hadn't changed. In retrospect, we did a lot of stuff for the past 2 weeks. We were approaching the time limit. Today was August 30th. Tomorrow would be our last day of summer vacation. I had to do something today or tomorrow, but I had no idea what to do. Summer sun, chirping cicadas, everything related to summer was a source of anxiety, and every school baseball team had been crowned champion while I wasn't paying attention. Wish this could all last a little longer, until Haruhi was finally satisfied. Haruhi used a pen in her hand to cross off the items on her list. Yesterday we waited until the dead of night to head into a large cemetery with candles in her hand for a last recreational event, a test of courage. There weren't any ghosts popping out to greet us or disembodied souls flying around. The only notable highlight was Asahina whimpering timidly in vain. We finished our list. It was August 31st, a little past noon. We were at the usual cafe in front of the station. Haruhi was staring at her sheet of paper as if the location of lost treasures of Tokugawa were written there in her pen. Her expression was a mixture of satisfaction and regret. Under normal circumstances, I would have felt a very similar regret, since we only had 1 day of summer vacation left. Under normal circumstances. I was seriously doubting that summer vacation would actually end. Only natural for me to be skeptical. I'd have to be after spending months in the SOS Brigade, a ridiculous organization led by an emotionally unstable brigade chief. Makes me wish I were more shallow. Able to assume the simple mindset that it's all good if Asahina is around. Well, I'll stop there. It's possible to have too much of a good thing. The key is to use lingo that isn't necessarily applicable. Was this enough? Haruhi seemed to be wavering as she used her straw to poke at the vanilla ice cream in her cola float. But yeah, I guess that's all there is. Is there anything else you want to do? Nagato made no response as she stared at the lemon slice in her black tea. Asahina had her fists clenched tightly above her knees, looking like a puppy that was being scolded. Koizumi merely smiled as he lifted his cup of Vienna coffee to his lips. As for me, I couldn't think of anything to say, so I just sat there sullenly with my arms crossed as I tried to come up with something. Oh well, we managed to get a lot of stuff done this summer. We visited a bunch of places, got to wear summer kimonos, and caught lots of cicadas too. It sounded to me like Haruhi was trying to convince herself that we'd done enough. That's not the case here. It's not enough. Deep down, Haruhi doesn't want summer vacation to end yet. She may say it, but that won't change how she feels on the inside. Because if we dig deep down, way deep down there, she isn't satisfied yet. I guess that's... Haruhi handed me the bill. All for today. I had tomorrow set aside just in case, but you can just rest at home. I'll see you all in the club room in 2 days then. Haruhi stood up and moved away from the table as I started to panic. I couldn't let Haruhi leave. That would solve nothing. The 2-week repetition, discovered by Koizumi and confirmed by Nagato, will enter its 15,499th iteration. But what was I supposed to do? Haruhi was walking away in slow motion. That's when, out of the blue with no warning at all, it hit me. A completely jumbled up, wait, I've seen this happen before kind of thing. However, this comes with a sense of vertigo like none before. An overpowering sense of deja vu that's stronger than anything else so far. I recognize this. Memories from the 10,000 plus times we repeated this scene. August 31st, 1 day left. There should have been some kind of hint in what Haruhi said. What was it? What was it? What was it? Is something wrong? Someone was talking. Koizumi must have mentioned something as well. Something I was worried about that I kept putting off. Haruhi was ready to leave the way she's done thousands of times. I can't let her leave. Nothing will change. What methods have I tried before? Memories began flashing before my eyes. Everything our predecessors had tried, and everything they hadn't tried. No time to think. Say something. Make a wild guess. My list isn't finished yet. I didn't need to make a big deal about it, though. Looking back later, after I'd calmed down, this was a creation of another memory that needed to be erased from my hippocampus. The surrounding patrons and employees, along with Haruhi, turning around from her position in front of the automatic door, focused their attention on me. Words came pouring out on their own. That's right, my homework. Every person in the cafe was frozen by my sudden outburst. What are you talking about? Haruhi walked over while looking at me like I was crazy. Your list? Homework? I haven't touched my summer homework. I have to finish that before summer can end. Are you insane? The look she gave me implied she thought I was. Don't care right now. Hey, Koizumi. Yes, what is it? Koizumi also appeared to be taken aback. Did you finish yours? No, we've been so busy that I'm only halfway through. Then we can do this together. Nagato, you too, you aren't done yet, right? I didn't give Nagato a chance to respond as I turned to Asahina, whose mouth was hanging open like a puppet's. While we're at it, I would also like Asahina to come. We're going to finish our summer list. Huh? Asahina was a second year, so her homework was different from ours, but that didn't really matter right now. But, where? We can do this at my house. Bring all your notes and problem sets so we can get them all done. Nagato and Koizumi, let me copy down what you've done. Koizumi nodded. Is that alright with you, Nagato? Yes. The head with the pseudo bob cut nodded slowly before looking up at me. Okay, tomorrow then. We start tomorrow morning. We'll make it happen in a single day. I pumped my fists in the air. Hold it right there. Haruhi had her hands on her hips as she stood next to our table. Don't decide everything on your own. I'm the brigade chief. You're supposed to ask for my opinion first, Kyon. It's a serious violation of regulations for a brigade member to make an independent decision. And with that, Haruhi gave me a glare before shouting at the top of her lungs, I'm coming too! The next morning. Looks like I guessed right. I woke up in my own bed to find that the ordeal was over, because I could remember that I had returned from the countryside after the Bond Festival, going to the pool, catching cicadas, and all the other August memories involving Haruhi and no one else, and everybody else. And best of all, I even remembered what yesterday's date was. Yesterday was August 31st, and today was September 1st. According to my newest memories, there had been an SOS Brigade study session in my room on the last day of summer vacation. I recall being completely exhausted. When you consider the amount of effort it took to copy all the notes in one day, I can't even imagine how much effort it would have taken to do the work on my own. I can guarantee that my vitality, energy, and spirit gauges were so low when I fell asleep last night that a single punch would have taken me out. Yesterday, Haruhi came up to my room carrying a mountain of homework she had already finished, gave a look of disdain to Koizumi, Nagato, Asahina, and me, scribbling away with our pencils, and ended up playing with my sister the whole time. Don't copy word for word. Haruhi was playing video games with my sister in the room, and she continued talking while jamming away at the controller. Like, reword stuff and tweak calculations. The teacher's not a bunch of idiots. Yoshizaki, the math teacher, is especially tricky. He pays extra attention to those things, though in my opinion, his own solutions aren't very elegant. My room already felt cramped with 5 people plus my sister, and then my mother kept coming in with juice or lunch or snacks to make it feel even more crowded. But Haruhi, unlike the rest of us who were engaging in so much wrist movement that carpal tunnel was imminent, appeared to be having a pretty good time. She had such a relaxed smile on her face, the smile you see higher up flash at lesser beings. In fact, Haruhi was so relaxed that she started giving Asahina, who was a grade above her, pointers on the essay she was struggling with. If Asahina gets a C on her report, it'll be Haruhi's fault. And with those memories finally lodged in my mind, I got out of bed. Today was the beginning of a new term, I think. I'd never been so glad to see the second term begin. After the principal's speech in the gym and a shortened homeroom session, school was over. The current date was September 1st. I knew this because Taniguchi and Kunakita gave me such condescending looks when I asked them for the date when we were in the classroom. The vendors and cafeteria weren't open today, so Haruhi had gone off to the snack shop outside the school's gate. Koizumi and I were the only ones in the clubroom. Suzumiya excels both academically and athletically. I would assume that's been the case since she was a child, which is why she didn't consider our summer homework to be a burden at all, and there was no chance she would ever think to share the workload with friends, since Suzumiya is fully capable of finishing the work by herself. As I listened to Koizumi's explanation, I drew a metal chair to the window and looked down at the schoolyard. Today was the first day of a new term, so I could have just gone home, but somehow I ended up coming here and found myself joined by Koizumi. The most unusual thing was the absence of Nagato. She didn't let it show, but she may have been very tired. There had been a shift in local cicada populations from Graptopsolitaria nigrofuscata to Maimuna opalifera. Summer vacation was over, that much was certain. However, hard to believe it was real, that we experienced the second half of August 15,000 plus times. It's only natural to feel that way. Quizme flashed a cheerful smile as he cut the deck. At this point, we don't share any memories with the incarnations of the 15,497 other loops. They do not exist on this time axis. For we, the members of the 15,498th time, were the only ones able to return to the normal flow of time. However, I had been given hints. The repeated sensations of deja vu, especially the ones at the end, may have been gifts from our predecessors. Should I even consider them predecessors, since time was more or less a merry-go-round, like those tigers that ran in circles until they turned into butter? Still, I am here right now because of the ones who underwent those 2 weeks before us. I have to look at it that way, or their summers erased by Haruhi would have been for nothing. Especially the 8,769 incarnations who knew they were being reset. How about some poker? Koizumi was shuffling cards like a novice magician. Guess I might as well humor him. Sure, what are we playing for? Don't have any money on me. No betting then. And actually, when it didn't count, I scored an insane win. The first time I've ever seen a royal flush. If I ever get an opportunity to redo this day, I'll remember to place a bet.